Hi, I'm Lola Turner, the co-host of the Business Talk Library, and today I'm excited to interview yet another guest for the Business Talk Library in Espanol, and that guest is Roman Gonzalez, and I'm really excited to sit down with him for a few reasons. One, he has created a business that for many of us who are really horrible when it comes to gardening and kill plants, I think this is definitely a good opportunity for you to evolve and grow in that area, but more importantly, I think also when it comes to just being able to create something, creating a sustainable source of food. Roman has managed to create a space where we can work through that and do it. So I'm really excited to talk to him about his business, his story, and what he's done, and to hear a little bit about Gardenio. So welcome to the show, Roman.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So before we jump in a little bit about Gardenio, can you tell us who Roman was before starting it and then how you got to the journey of founding this company?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas, not far from where I'm based now, Austin, Texas. And I guess I was always just like a really curious, ambitious, driven kid. I was from a very early age, I used to joke that it was from fourth grade on, I was always leading some kind of organization.
Yeah.
I was student council vice president, and it just never stopped after that in fourth grade. And I really liked working with teams. I really liked building things from scratch. When it came to high school, I was leading 5 different organizations, through them which I had done myself, was working in 5 different publications. I've always just had, the job on top of the job on top of the job. And I was also just really interested in the big questions of life in high school and still today, of how do you live a happy, meaningful life? How do you find purpose? How do we find joy in our daily lives? And I think those are things that everybody thinks about or engages with in some way. And so I was really interested in those questions. So I went far away. I went to Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island to study philosophy. And after about 2 years of just really delving deep into it, I got a little burned out and realized that more fundamentally, I'm somebody who wants to build stuff, who wants to make something with my hands. And so got really into filmmaking at the time, and which led into basically the start of my career in marketing, consulting for companies around Providence and Austin. So I was this video social media guy. And for that was about 6 years or so. And I continued to build things at Brown, including a TV station that's still there. And so that started the marketing career that lasted about 6 years. I moved to Austin and took a couple jobs, worked for a startup called Twofer. I was their marketing director for a year and a half, was acquired by Salesforce, had a couple of marketing jobs after that. But I was really interested not just in how do we tell the story as marketers, but how do we actually solve the problems, right? And so that's what really attracted me to user experience design and research. And so I transitioned into that, where I've been for the past 7 years. So really, really wanted to, through my 20s, build up this skill set of, every part of how a business works. I've done customer service for really large companies that are known for their customer service. I've done product. I've done marketing, right? The only thing I told myself I would never do is to code everything, because then I would, I want to be able to play with others. And so yeah, I had this background and was still interested in the big questions, was still interested in storytelling, for my film days. And I always knew I was going to start something. It wasn't an if, but a when. And so through my 20s, dabbled with a bunch of different ideas, kind of did some things that weren't super serious. And I eventually, one of the things, I had become interested in growing my own food. And I was like, okay, that'd be kind of fun to do, right? I was getting into cooking, was really curious about it. And I was like, how do you make a good salsa or something? And it was like, well, you need a good tomato. And then, well, how do you get a good tomato? Well, you grow it, right? And then look at all these different kinds of tomatoes. There's these black tomatoes, these cool patterned tomatoes. They all taste different, have different applications. And what was previously very interesting to me about philosophy, this huge world of all these, this expansive world of knowledge and ideas, I was like, oh, I was looking out there before. And now with gardening, I saw that, a lot of the things that I was looking for and wanted were kind of around me the whole time, right? That realization, I think, that some people go through. And so it started to shift the way I viewed the world, right? It was like, you kind of were just walking through the street and you see an orange tree, and so all of a sudden the world is bountiful, right?
Right.
And so all of that got me really curious about it. One day I went to a garden center, bought 13 plants because I have no chill, and came back, and a month later they were all dead. And this happens to a lot of people, right?
Yeah, myself included.
Yeah, and people were like, well, you must have learned so much. I was like, I learned nothing. I have no idea what happened, right? And it occurred to me, I was, as a designer, I was like, this is an onboarding problem,
Mm,
right? This is like, how do you, if you're completely new to the garden space, you don't have somebody to text or call or something, how do you get started and how are you successful? And so that's where, that's the problem space that Gardenio operates in. And so now we're a new kind of direct-to-consumer garden club membership, sends you everything you need every season with an app to help you as you grow, and it's all organic, sustainable. We don't have a bunch of gadgets, in the plant and turn it into another tech thing. It's very much about how do you leverage technology, not to do everything for you and automate,
mhm.
but how to support you in building a relationship with a plant over time so that you can enjoy all the benefits that growing your own food has to offer.
That's really good. Roman, you've said a lot, and I kind of want to unpack that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of good things, a lot of good things. So I think one, the first thing that you mentioned just about your journey, right? Going from studying philosophy to doing marketing to content creation to video to then now being able to found a company that basically creates gives people an opportunity to create life and create products that
Yeah.
they can then feed from. One of the things that I think is very interesting, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit, is I think one of the things that you said was that, as marketing, you were focusing more on solving the problem versus just putting the product out there.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about just the issues, or when I think about people that are starting businesses, and even with our clients, one of the things that we find is a lot of people start businesses because they love what they do. They love cooking. They love, serving restaurants. They love construction, whatever the market or industry is. But oftentimes, I don't think a lot of people stop to ask the question is, what problem am I actually solving, right? So
Yeah.
not focused on just, hey, I'm doing this, I'm passionate about it, so I'm going to do it, but what problem am I solving? How do
Yeah.
you think, as someone who had the marketing background, and I feel like you had a really good setup to really focus on it, because I think even with Gardenio, you're solving a problem, which is, like you said, the onboarding problem. A lot of people, like myself included, we have an issue because we're not educated with how to maintain the plants. We get them, we're excited about them, they look really nice, and then after a couple of weeks they're dead, right? So how do you think kind of having that marketing background and experience really played a role in helping you focus as you were launching the business on more of solving the problem and
Yeah.
less about kind of the feel and the passion and all the other maybe fluff that is important, but really at the core of it when it comes to selling your product is really what you need is, are you solving a problem for your customers?
Absolutely. I think both marketing and product design
Mm-hmm.
really, and research, particularly the ability to talk to customers and ask the right questions to get good information on how people are feeling,
Mm-hmm.
like on a deep, really interior level. I think all of those things together kind of were sort of brought to bear in the genesis of Gardenio. And I think that on the marketing side, it was certainly, I was kind of stuck in IT for a little bit of my career, and I wasn't able to tell stories in the way that I wanted to. But I've always been interested in that. But I'm somebody who, and I think I relate it in as much to my experience as a person of color that like I didn't feel allowed to just have big stories but not be able to back them up,
Mm,
right? And there's a lot of companies out there that are really big stories with people who don't know what they're doing.
right.
They're incredibly well funded and very far along. And so I always felt a pressure, but also a curiosity and a desire as a very driven, curious person to really also be able to back it up. And so I think that was the thought, right? Like marketing allowed me to start to understand what a customer's feeling, but also a channel to be able to tell even my personal story or offer my particular way of talking, which specifically in the gardening space is just like sorely lacking, right? It's all very technical. It's all very stale.
Yep.
Um, and so I think our brand voice and our ability to understand people on a more fundamental human level, I think philosophy really comes through there, right? In just understanding, we're not just trying to ship stuff off a shelf. We really care about the plants we send out and people's experience with them. So I think all that is like on the marketing side. I think that really informed that. And then on the product side, I definitely think all of what I had done before, I was sort of trained in the art of asking the right questions and like not caring about the answers, but caring about truth. Like that's
Mm,
philosophy. I did journalism before for a little bit. And then with product research too, it's like just ask the right questions and find the truth.
yeah.
And so I think that all those things contributed toward, yes, our ability to tell the story, but also our ability to sort of say like, what's the real problem here? What's the real need that's being met? And for us, like we index a lot on the idea that the reason people grow food, like you mentioned, is deeply emotional,
Hmm.
right? It is not just like, oh, I want a bigger tomato. Like that
Right.
is car salesmanship. That is, and you know, all through the industry. It's like we realize that we like to grow food because the world is kind of terrifying. And in an age of extreme technology saturation, we feel anxious, we feel disconnected. And so for me personally, and I think also I can speak for a lot of people, that what draws us to it is that there's something magical about it and something we're reconnecting to. And I think that's, you know, we see a lot of people gardening now more than they have in a very long time. Industry is at an all-time high, double what it was 10 years ago. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think for us, we started gardening kind of after COVID. So with like the shutdowns and stuff like that. So we were home and my husband and I kind of, went to Home Depot, picked up some seeds and we're like, we're gonna give this a try. We had never gardened. Well, I had never gardened. So it's definitely an experiment. And I think to your point, there really is a sense of kind of fulfillment that comes from that, not just that you were able to create something, but also, hey, this is kind of like a farm to table, literally, right? You can go, you can create it,
Yeah.
you can build it, but even just that sense of fulfillment of being able to grow something and finish, like, finish what you started. And I
Yeah.
think, like you said, a really important point you made about like, we're more connected now than ever, but there's still that sense of disconnection. When you talk about, IT and
Yeah.
technology has given us more of a platform, more of an opportunity to be connected. But even then, we're still a bit disconnected. And I think every now and then it makes sense to go back and really just kind of block out all of the noise and get back in and focus on some of the things that really matter.
Yeah.
So Gardenio sounds like a great company. So I would love for you to tell us a bit more about some of the products that you offer and how it works. So if I was interested, as I am, I don't consider myself an expert quite yet. I grew some tomatoes and kale, but that's about it. But how would you go about joining Gardenio, or how would you go about kind of starting the process?
Absolutely. So you would go to growgardenio.com.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we just serve the Texas area and a little bit of surrounding areas, just so we can ensure the quality of the plants when we ship them.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd go to growgardenio.com, you'd become a member. We're building tools right now that are going to help you sort of identify like, hey, I have this certain kind of space. Then we'll be able to recommend specific kinds of plants that work for you. That's not live yet. But right now, what we say is if you have 6 inches of space on a patio or a balcony, small outdoor spaces, you can grow with us. So basically, when you sign up, you select your plant preferences. And so this is just saying, of the 11 high-level categories that we offer, you hate cilantro, we'll never send you cilantro, right? Like, if you have that gene. And so you pick your preferences, and then the next month, we ship once a month in the beginning of the month, we'll send you 3 plant kits. So your membership lasts 3 months. So when
Okay.
we send you a plant kit, it comes with, I have a little plant here. It's like 3 of these. So these are compostable containers. They're made out of rice hull. It's a zero plastic setup. So we send you 3 containers, the right kind of soil to go with each plant, 3 live organic plants, and 3 bags of mulch, the right kind of mulch for what you're doing. Also send you care guides that for each of those, just something physical, because we really want to index on that. Now, you get those 3 plant kits, easy instructions on how to set them up. They're fun. We have a lot of videos of people doing it. And over those next 3 months, you get support via our mobile application. So you download it on iOS and Android, put in your account information, go in and add your plants, and now you have these detailed kind of anytime sort of care guides for how much water does this thing need, right? Like what kind of sun does it need? How do I adjust? You're able to reach out to us for one-to-one support there as well. Over time, we're building tools to be able to automate those flows so that you don't always have to talk to a Gardenio person. You can sort of say like, hey, I have holes on my plant. Okay, well, what could that be? Oh, well, in order to get rid of this bug, here's something we can send you at a discounted rate because you're a member, to help solve that issue. So the idea behind the app is to connect you to the information localized to where you are, the supplies and the people you need to be successful. Right now, those people are us, but in short order, as the Gardenio base grows, we're going to open that up so that people can start talking to each other. And, just like I'm sure everybody has a friend who every time they have a garden problem, they'll text that friend or something. And
That's my mom.
exactly. And so how do we, so what we want to do is be able to be that friend and have that friend help, a lot more people out and really start to codify that knowledge that right now is so tribal, right? We're just texting each other. We're a Facebook group, a Yahoo 2003 forum from Arkansas. You're just like, how do you codify that and preserve that and leverage people? People are the most important part of our equation to be able to, serve us and make anybody, give anybody the ability to grow their own food at home in the long term. That's really the mission part of what we're doing.
Great. Awesome. Now I'm going to switch over just more so to the business side. So what has probably been kind of the challenge? Because when I think about living things, I feel like with businesses, when it relates to living things, it's always a little bit interesting when you think about transportation and delivery and just the overall supply chain. So what have been just some of the challenges that you've seen with kind of delivering? And now I know you're more focused on the Texas area, but as you kind of think about growing and expanding, and maybe I'm asking this question more selfishly, over to us over here in the East Coast.
Yeah, no, I think operations, we spent a lot of time in operations in our first year before we, really kind of launched, figuring that out. Because my background was in marketing and design, and we have somebody on the tech side, but, wasn't an ops founder. But I learned about that by talking to really smart people from major direct-to-consumer brands, from a lot of people around Austin. We have a fantastic retail consumer packaged goods scene here with a lot of operations folks. And we ended up designing a way of shipping the plants to keep them safe. And so we worked with a box provider, we generated the designs, they sort of improved them. And so, now we can ship plants at scale. And we can actually have about a 2 to 3 to possibly 4 day kind of waiting time, but we usually try and keep it to 1 to 2 day shipping right now while we're still small and I'm just operating in Texas. But, there's a playbook for expanding companies like this. I mean, some of the folks we talked to were early folks, like founder of Plated, early folks at Blue Apron in operations. Really look to them for guidance on what's your model, how do they expand, and so it's a pretty standard. You have a fulfillment center, bring everything in there, be able to ship out from there, and have that in different parts of the country. So we want to get to New York just as fast as you want us, and it really does, just as fast as you want us over there. And so actually that brings me to kind of the second challenge, which is fundraising as an early entrepreneur. So I think there's the operations challenges, but those are all overcomable challenges. I think that as an early stage company, a lot of the problems you really have are, I need more hands. And if you're a consumer company specifically, you need more money to be able to come in the door to actually spend on customer acquisition. Because you can farmers market your way around, sure. But if you're really serious about building a world-changing company, you need that early stage funding.
Right.
And so we've been lucky enough to have some really recent successes with that. Katie Jacobs-Stanton, a major angel investor on the West Coast, runs Moxie Ventures, former VP of Global Media at Twitter. She just came into our round. The founder of Literati, Jess Ewing, just came into our round. And so we're getting more and more folks like that and really validating kind of the early stages of what we're doing. But that is not without a lot of concerted work and effort. And so I'm really big right now in talking for any founder of color specifically. Female entrepreneurs as well. Female entrepreneurs get about 7% of venture capital. POC entrepreneurs about 3%, 3% or less. If you're a woman of color, it's less than 1%. Up until a few years ago, there were, I think 2 years ago, it was like 35 Black women total who had raised more than $1 million. Wow. Yeah. The numbers are awful. And it's not, we know in this part of the community, it's not for lack of talent. Yep. And so there's a lot of conversation right now on how do you fix that? But my thought is that people are talking about the seed level, $2 million raises and more. I'm talking about at the early stage level. I'm talking about the first 50K, 100K, 150K. So that's my big thing right now. That's what I'm using this platform for. But yeah, so I think that fundraising has been a challenge as well. But again, overcomable. with a community around you. And, you know, for us, and this gets into the tips stuff, but it really is just talking as much as possible about what you're doing, getting the word out there, and just like building relationships and making friends. So that's really helpful.
That's really good because I think two things. I think the one thing that you mentioned just with raising capital, I congratulations first of all
Thank you.
because my husband worked for a startup and they had to raise a 40 I think 40 plus $1 million in funding. They've done that twice,
Oh my
so
God.
it's no small feat.
Yeah.
I can appreciate it as someone who was the spouse of an individual who was spending long late nights trying to put all the presentations and all the decks together for that. So I definitely respect that. It goes, there's a lot of work that goes into it, like you mentioned. And then
Yeah.
I think another point you made that I think is very important is just the starting phase. I think, especially on the West Coast, when people think about rounds of funding, it's just like 10 million, 5 million, 6
Mhm.
million.
Mhm.
But I think more importantly, what you mentioned is how do you start from the get-go, whether it's 50,000, 70,000, 80,000, right? To at least get you going. And I think just that focus of appreciating that even though it might not be the 5 million or 10 million, hey, what do you need for now to start that business and to get it off the ground and to do what you need to do? So I think that's a very, very valid point. And I think also to your point, creating opportunities to allow more people of color in the space. And, because like you said, there's no lack of ideas. So I think that's very, 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 very valid and good points. So
Yeah.
Roman, I know you've already given us a lot of good stuff, and I really, really appreciate it. Tons of valuable insight. One more question for you. Where can people find you? You already talked about Gardenio.com was the website. Where can we find you on other social media platforms?
Yeah, we're pretty active on Instagram at Grow Gardenio. That's the main one. We're also on Facebook. We have an emerging TikTok, but short of that, I
That
would.
sounds interesting. I'm going to go follow that after.
We just do silly videos, but definitely on Instagram is the best way to find us.
Okay.
And I'm on LinkedIn. If anything I said resonated, feel free to follow me. And yeah, I'm happy to be a part of the conversation and engage.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll definitely share that with the audience as well if they're looking to connect and get a hold of you. Last question. Again, you've shared so much valuable insight, lots of good tips just within our conversation. But just want to ask you if there were any tips that anything that you've learned along your journey, along the way, along the very, very rich experience that you have from marketing to philosophy and product development, whatever, and even just in running an amazing company and getting that off the ground. What advice would you share? I want to kind of focus overall in general, just advice for an entrepreneur, but then also if I'm thinking about a Latinx entrepreneur, Latino entrepreneur that's looking to kind of kick things off the ground, or even just, hey, in the grind of doing it, what's some advice that you would give to them, or any tips that you or insight or wisdom you can share?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if somebody's at the very early stages, like considering starting something, I think the best advice is to tell everybody about it.
Hmm.
I think often is relatively common advice, but often we think that somebody's going to steal our idea, and
Hmm.
ideas are worth absolutely nothing. It's the execution that matters, and that's what takes you where you want to go. A lot of people think, I have an idea, and it's Uber for cats, and I need $5 million now, and it's like, or meow rather. Anyway, sorry, that
I
and
love it.
it's the wrong way to think about it. It needs to be like, let's go validate a market. Let's go talk to the cats. Let's go talk to the cat owners
Mhm.
and run it by them. Even a 10-page slide deck takes you so far. And get feedback, ask them to poke holes because you want them to improve your idea. So it's talk to everybody. And then the second part of that is it's almost like talk to more people, which is just building relationships. And all of the good things that have happened with Gardenio have happened because of our friends, our community have chipped in time. We've had over 70 people donate their time or volunteer or as internships, majority women, majority people of color. And it's because we stand for something, right? And we're good to people, and that will take you so far. And building those relationships early, even if you think there's some investor who wouldn't talk to you, who's too far away, they want to build relationships too, because they want to follow your progress. And if people follow your progress and then one day, and they like you, one day you
Mhm.
say like, hey, we need help, people want to help more than you think they do. So that'd be the best advice I could give.
That's really great stuff. Thank you so much, Roman. Much appreciated. And thank you for sharing your wisdom, your insight. I'm really, really excited. I'm happy that we connected and got to develop this relationship. I'm even more excited about what Gardenio is doing and just looking forward to having you kind of expand to the South and to the East Coast when you do grow, when you do grow. So I wish you all the best in your journey. Thank you so much for being on the Business Talk Library. Thank you for sitting down and talking to us. And thank you so much for being on the show.